The person you love hired a psychic to uncover your past. They froze when she revealed who. My beloved child, something happened behind your back that the person you love never expected would shake them this deeply. They had been carrying questions about you for longer than they wanted to admit, questions about why you feel so different, why your presence stays in their thoughts even during the quietest moments, and why every attempt to understand you seems to uncover another layer. Eventually, curiosity became impossible to silence. They secretly reached out to a psychic, believing they would hear a simple explanation about your past. But the moment the psychic focused on you, her expression changed. She became unusually quiet, as though she had discovered something she had not expected to find. The person you love immediately leaned forward, waiting for her next words, but she did not speak right away. And that silence made everything feel even bigger. Don't skip, because what she finally revealed was not about an ordinary memory, an old relationship, or some forgotten chapter. She said there was one person connected to your past whose influence had shaped the way you love, trust, and protect your heart today. The person you love froze. They had expected answers, but suddenly they realized they were about to discover something that could completely change the way they see you. And then the psychic said something even more surprising. The person you're asking about has carried more inside their heart than most people ever notice. Those words landed differently. Suddenly, little things about you started making sense, the moments when you became quiet instead of explaining yourself, the times you gave more than anyone expected, and the strange strength behind the way you kept moving forward without asking anyone to understand everything you had been through. But the psychic still had not revealed who she had seen. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you, and the identity she was about to uncover was the exact reason the person you love could no longer look at your story the same way. What happened next made the room feel completely different. The psychic told them that your past was not something they should judge from the outside because one particular connection had changed you in a way that could still be felt today. She described someone who once held an important place in your emotional world, not necessarily because that person stayed forever, but because what you learned through that connection became part of who you are. The person you love immediately started wondering who it could be. Someone from your family? Someone you once trusted deeply? Someone who believed in you before anyone else did? Or someone whose absence taught you the value of genuine presence? The psychic refused to answer immediately. Instead, she said, "Before I tell you who this person is, you need to understand something about the one you love." That sentence pulled them even deeper. She explained that behind your calmness is a person who notices far more than they reveal. Behind your silence is a mind that remembers details other people forget. And behind your ability to care deeply is a history that taught you never to treat real connection casually. The person you love suddenly remembered moments they had previously misunderstood. Maybe there were times they thought you were distant when you were actually protecting something precious inside yourself. Maybe there were moments they wondered why certain words mattered so much to you. Now, everything was beginning to connect. Don't skip. The biggest revelation had still not arrived. The psychic looked directly at them and said the mysterious person from your past had left behind something more powerful than a memory, a promise, a lesson, or a belief that still influences what you secretly hope to find in love today. That was when the person you love stopped treating this reading like entertainment. They were listening differently now. Because somehow, without knowing every detail of your story, the psychic had touched the exact mystery they had been trying to understand about you. Then came the moment they were completely unprepared for. The psychic finally began describing who she believed this person was, but she did it slowly, revealing one detail at a time. She said this person had once made you understand that true love is not measured by beautiful words alone, it is measured by consistency, loyalty, patience, and the feeling of being understood without constantly having to explain yourself. The person you love went silent because those were the exact qualities they had noticed you valued most. Suddenly, this was no longer just about uncovering your past. It was revealing what your heart might be searching for in the present. Something huge is waiting for you, because then the psychic turned the entire conversation in a direction nobody expected. She told them, "You came here asking me who shaped this person's past, but the bigger question is why you are so emotionally connected to their future." That sentence stayed in the air. The person you love had no immediate response. They had entered looking for information about you, but somehow the reading had begun exposing them instead, their curiosity, their feelings, and the reason they could not simply move on from thoughts of you. And just when they believed they had heard the biggest revelation, the psychic said she could finally identify the connection she had been sensing from your past. But before giving them the answer, she added one final detail that made them freeze again. Whoever this person was, their influence had unknowingly prepared your heart to recognize something rare when it finally appeared. And according to her reading, that rare connection might already be standing much closer to you than anyone realizes. Stay till the end, because the next thing she revealed about who that person was, and why the person you love suddenly saw themselves differently, changed the entire meaning of why they had gone looking into your past in the first place. The next revelation changed the atmosphere instantly. The person you love had walked into that psychic reading believing they were there to uncover something hidden about you, but now they were beginning to realize that your past was only the doorway to something much bigger. The psychic looked at them carefully and said, "The person I'm sensing was important, but not for the reason you think." Those words immediately created another question. Who was she talking about? Someone who once stood beside you? Someone who disappeared from your life? Someone whose words stayed with you long after the moment passed? Don't skip, because the answer was getting closer, and the person you love could barely hide how deeply invested they had become. The psychic explained that this person had influenced the standards you carry inside your heart today. They taught you, directly or indirectly, that genuine connection cannot survive on promises alone. It needs presence. It needs understanding. It needs someone who chooses you even when there is nothing to prove. Suddenly, the person you love remembered the way you respond to sincerity. They remembered how quickly you notice when someone's actions do not match their words. They remembered how you never seemed impressed by appearances alone. And for the first time, they wondered whether everything they admired about you had been built through experiences they never knew about. But then the psychic leaned closer and revealed something unexpected. The person from the past is important, but they are not the ending of this story. That sentence made them freeze again. Because if that person was not the ending, then who was? Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, because the psychic was about to turn the entire reading toward the one person sitting directly in front of her. Without giving them time to process it, she continued. She said that sometimes a powerful person from the past does not remain in someone's life forever. Sometimes their role is simply to leave behind a lesson that prepares the heart for a completely different connection later. And according to what she believed she was sensing, that was exactly what had happened with you. The person you love suddenly asked the question they had been avoiding from the beginning, then why do I feel so connected to this person? The psychic paused. That pause felt endless. Then she told them that perhaps they had been looking at your connection backward. They thought they were fascinated by your mystery, but maybe what truly pulled them toward you was the feeling that you represented something they had been searching for themselves, something peaceful, sincere, and difficult to replace. Don't skip, because this was where their curiosity became something much more personal. They started remembering every conversation with you that stayed in their mind afterward, every small detail about you they somehow remembered without trying, every moment when your absence felt louder than expected. They had hired someone hoping to discover your secret, yet now they were confronting their own feelings. And then came another surprising line. You are asking who changed their past, the psychic said, but have you considered that you may be someone who changes their future? The person you love became completely silent. For the first time, they stopped asking questions about who came before them. They started thinking about who they wanted to become in your life. They realized that knowing your history would never matter as much as understanding your heart now. And that realization was stronger than anything they had expected to hear. But the biggest twist was still waiting. The psychic finally gave them the clue they had been asking for. The person connected to your past was someone whose influence had taught you what you would never again accept, and, more importantly, what you would never again settle for. Yet she deliberately refused to reduce that person to a simple name, because she believed the identity mattered less than what the experience created inside you. The person you love finally understood. They had gone searching for a mysterious individual, expecting some shocking name to explain everything, but the real revelation was that your past had created a version of you capable of recognizing authenticity immediately. And suddenly, that frightened them in a completely different way, not because of anything hidden in your history, but because they wondered whether they themselves had been showing you enough authenticity. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. They left that conversation carrying a question they could no longer escape. If this person can recognize real love so clearly, what do my actions tell them about me? From that moment, something shifted. Their focus was no longer on competing with your past. It was on becoming worthy of your future. And what happened after they walked away from that reading was even more surprising, because instead of forgetting what they heard, they made a private decision about you, a decision they had been postponing for far too long. They decided they could no longer hide behind uncertainty. They needed to understand what this connection truly meant, and the next move they began considering could reveal more about their feelings than any psychic reading ever could. But what happened after they left that room was something even the psychic could not have fully prepared them for. The person you love kept replaying one sentence again and again: stop asking who shaped their past, and start asking why you feel called toward their future. It followed them everywhere. Suddenly, every memory of you carried a different meaning. Your quiet expressions. The way you listened carefully instead of rushing to respond. The way you could be warm without trying to impress anyone. The way you sometimes stepped back when something felt uncertain. Things they once considered mysterious now seemed connected to something deeper. Don't skip, because this is where their entire perspective began changing. They had originally wanted a name. They wanted one dramatic answer that would explain why you are the way you are. Instead, they discovered something far more surprising: there was no single name powerful enough to explain you. Your past had shaped your standards, but it had not taken away your ability to believe in something genuine. And that realization hit them harder than expected. Because suddenly they understood that if they wanted a meaningful place in your life, curiosity would never be enough. They would have to show you something real. Something consistent. Something you would never need to question. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. That night, instead of thinking about the mysterious person from your past, they started thinking about themselves. They remembered moments when they almost told you how much you mattered but stopped. They remembered messages they wanted to send but reconsidered. They remembered times when they acted casual even though seeing your name had completely changed their mood. And one question became impossible to ignore: what if you had already noticed everything they were trying so hard to hide? Then another detail from the reading suddenly returned to their mind. Before they left, the psychic had told them, "There is something about this person's heart you still don't understand." At the time, they had been too overwhelmed to ask what she meant. Now those words felt enormous. What could she possibly have seen? The next day, they contacted her again, asking for clarification. This time, her response was completely different. She told them that the strongest thing she sensed was not attachment to somebody from your past. It was unfinished emotional space around your future, a space that had not yet been filled because you were waiting, consciously or unconsciously, for something that felt undeniably sincere. Don't skip. This was the moment the person you love realized they had misunderstood the entire situation. They had worried that someone from your history still had an invisible hold on your heart, yet the reading suggested almost the opposite. Your past had simply taught you to recognize what deserves access to your future. That changed everything. They began asking themselves whether they had shown you their genuine side or only the guarded version. Whether you knew how often they thought about you. Whether you understood why they sometimes became unusually quiet around you. And then the psychic asked them one question that left them without an answer: if this person disappeared from your everyday world tomorrow, what would you wish you had told them today? Silence. Complete silence. Because immediately, they knew. They would regret every feeling they had disguised as indifference. Every opportunity they had allowed to pass because they assumed there would always be another moment. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. That question pushed them toward a realization they had been avoiding for much longer than they wanted to admit. And this is where everything turned around. The person you love finally admitted to themselves that they had not hired the psychic merely because they were curious about your past. Deep inside, they were searching for reassurance about their own place in your story. They wanted to know whether there was room for them. They wanted to know whether the connection they felt was something worth taking seriously. Most surprisingly, they wanted to understand why you had become so difficult to forget. The psychic had given them no magical guarantee and no easy prediction. Instead, she gave them something stronger, a mirror. And in that mirror, they finally saw the truth about their own behavior. They had been watching you from an emotional distance while secretly hoping you would somehow understand everything they never said. But meaningful connections do not grow through unspoken assumptions. So they made a decision. They decided that the next time an opportunity appeared, they would stop hiding behind hesitation. They would show you through their actions that whatever happened before them did not intimidate them. Your history was not something they needed to defeat. It was something they needed to respect. Don't skip, because their next decision was even bigger. Before ending the conversation, the psychic gave them one final clue about the mysterious person she had originally sensed from your past, and this clue completely overturned their first assumption. She said, "You keep imagining that this person was someone they once loved. But what if you're looking in the wrong direction entirely?" The person you love stared at her. Their mind immediately raced through every possibility. If it wasn't who they had assumed, then who was it? And when she began explaining what she meant, they finally realized why the identity of this person could change everything they thought they understood about you. The answer was nothing like the person you love had imagined. For all this time, they had assumed the mysterious figure from your past had to be someone romantic, someone whose memory might still occupy a hidden corner of your heart. But the psychic slowly shook her head and said, "You've been asking the wrong question." Suddenly, everything became quiet again. She explained that the strongest influence she believed she was sensing did not necessarily represent an old romance at all. It could represent someone who once believed in you when you needed it most, someone whose words helped shape your understanding of loyalty, dignity, and genuine connection. It might have been a family member, an old friend, a mentor, or simply someone whose presence became unforgettable because of what they taught you. Don't skip, because this changed the entire meaning of the reading. The person you love realized they had allowed their own insecurity to fill in the blanks. They had imagined competition where there might never have been any. They had been searching for somebody to compare themselves against when the real story was about understanding the values you carried forward. And suddenly, one particular detail hit them. Perhaps the reason you value small acts of sincerity so deeply is because somebody once showed you that love is revealed through actions people perform when nobody is watching. Perhaps that is why empty promises never impress you. Perhaps that is why consistency catches your attention more than grand appearances. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. The psychic then said something that made them sit completely still. Whoever shaped this part of their heart did not teach them to chase love. They taught them to recognize it. Those words changed everything. The person you love suddenly understood that winning your attention was never supposed to be about performing perfectly. It was about becoming genuine enough that you would never need to guess their intentions. And then their thoughts turned toward you in a way they never had before. Instead of wondering, "Who was there before me?" they started asking, "What kind of person do I want to be from this moment forward?" That single shift opened something inside them. They remembered the times you showed patience without demanding recognition. They remembered the little ways you cared when nobody expected you to. They remembered conversations where one simple sentence from you stayed in their thoughts for days. Don't skip, because the next realization was even stronger. They finally understood that their fascination with your past had always been connected to their feelings about your future. They were searching because you mattered more than they had admitted. They wanted answers because uncertainty around you affected them differently. And beneath all those questions was one truth they could no longer disguise: they did not want to remain just another passing chapter in your life. They wanted to become someone whose presence felt safe, sincere, and unforgettable for the right reasons. But the psychic reminded them of something important: knowing information about your history could never replace actually communicating with you. If they wanted to understand your heart, they would eventually have to stop searching around you and start speaking honestly with you. That thought stayed with them, because suddenly they realized how strange their journey had become. They had gone looking outside the connection for answers that perhaps only the two of you could discover together. Something huge is waiting for you, because at that exact moment they made a private promise to themselves: if they received another genuine opportunity with you, they would stop pretending your presence meant nothing extraordinary to them. No more hiding everything behind casual words. No more expecting you to read feelings they refuse to express. They would allow their actions to become clearer, but there was still one final detail the psychic had not explained, and it was the detail that brought the person you love back to the original mystery. Before they left, they asked, "Then why did you react that way when you first sensed this person from the past?" The psychic became quiet again. She said her reaction had not been about the identity alone, it was about what that influence seemed to have created inside you. In her interpretation, whatever happened in your history had not made your heart weaker, it had made you more selective about where you place it. And that was the revelation that finally made the person you love understand why you felt so different to them. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you. They realized that if you ever chose someone deeply, it would not be because that person chased you hardest or spoke the loudest. It would be because their presence felt truthful enough to earn something you do not give carelessly: trust. And suddenly the person you love wanted that more than anything they had been searching for during this entire reading. They no longer cared about defeating some mysterious figure from yesterday. They wanted to show you who they could be today. Yet just as they prepared to leave, the psychic offered one last unexpected thought: there is another reason you were so determined to uncover their past, and I don't think you've admitted it to yourself yet. The person you love stopped immediately. Because somewhere inside, they already suspected what she meant. Their questions about you had become personal because their feelings were personal. And the truth they were about to admit next had nothing to do with your past anymore, it was entirely about what they secretly hoped could happen between you in the future. What they admitted next was the one truth they had been avoiding from the beginning. The person you love looked at the psychic and finally said, almost as if they were confessing it to themselves for the first time, "I think I was searching because I needed to know whether there was still space for me." And suddenly, everything made sense. Their curiosity about your past, their endless questions, their need to understand who had shaped you, it was never really about uncovering a secret person. It was about discovering whether their own feelings had somewhere to go. Don't skip, because this is where the story takes a completely different direction. The psychic told them that no reading could decide their place in your life, only honesty, respect, timing, and the choices made between two people could do that. Those words struck deeper than any prediction could. The person you love realized they had spent so much time trying to understand what happened before them that they had almost overlooked what was happening inside them right now. They cared. Far more than they had planned. Your name could change their mood. A simple memory of you could interrupt an ordinary day. Sometimes they would remember one tiny detail from a conversation and wonder why their mind had saved it so perfectly. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. They suddenly understood that the biggest mystery had never been your past. The biggest mystery was why their own heart kept returning to you even when they tried to focus elsewhere. And for once, they stopped resisting that question. They allowed themselves to consider the possibility that perhaps you had become important to them before they were emotionally prepared to admit it. Then the psychic asked something incredibly simple: what exactly are you afraid of? The person you love had no immediate answer. But eventually, the truth surfaced. They were afraid of showing too much and discovering you did not feel the same. They were afraid of waiting too long and discovering they had missed their opportunity. They were afraid that someone from your past had understood you better than they ever could. Yet the reading had already challenged that final fear. Your history was not a competition. Whoever had influenced you before had helped create the standards you carried today, but the future remained unwritten. Don't skip. The next realization hit them unexpectedly hard. They remembered one particular moment with you, a moment that had seemed ordinary when it happened, but now felt completely different. Maybe it was the way you looked at them while they were speaking. Maybe it was something thoughtful you remembered about them. Maybe it was simply a quiet moment where neither of you needed to fill the silence. Whatever it was, they had replayed it more times than they wanted to admit. And suddenly they wondered, had you felt something in that moment too? Something huge is waiting for you, because this question changed their entire intention. They no longer wanted someone else to interpret every detail for them. They wanted to discover the truth naturally, through the connection itself. They wanted to pay attention to your words instead of inventing answers around them. They wanted to become brave enough to let you see the part of them that had been hiding behind curiosity all along. And most importantly, they realized that understanding you meant respecting what you chose to share rather than trying to uncover what you kept private. But just when the reading seemed finished, the psychic offered a final observation that stayed with them long after they walked away. She said, "Perhaps the reason this person's past feels so important to you is because you're secretly imagining yourself in their future." The person you love froze once more. There it was, the sentence that connected everything. They had not been obsessed with yesterday. They had been wondering about tomorrow. They had imagined conversations that had not happened yet. They had wondered what it would feel like if you trusted them completely. They had pictured what might happen if both of you stopped hiding behind uncertainty and simply allowed the connection to reveal what it truly was. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. After leaving, they looked at their phone and your name suddenly carried more weight than ever. For a moment, they considered reaching out immediately. Their fingers hovered there, but they stopped, not because they had changed their mind, but because they wanted their next move to come from sincerity instead of emotion rushing ahead of them. They wanted whatever happened next to feel real. And then something unexpected happened. They remembered one final detail the psychic had mentioned almost casually, something they had barely noticed during the conversation. She had said that the person who influenced your past had left behind a lesson connected to one very specific kind of promise. At first, it meant nothing. But now, as the person you love replayed those words, they realized they had heard you express almost the exact same belief before. That coincidence made them stop completely. Because if they remembered correctly, you had once revealed a tiny piece of this mystery yourself without realizing how important it would eventually become, and now they knew exactly where to look for the clue. That forgotten clue suddenly became the most important piece of the entire mystery. The person you love sat there replaying something you had once said, something so simple that they barely noticed it at the time. You had spoken about how the right person never makes someone constantly question where they stand. You had said that genuine care should feel steady, not confusing, that promises mean little unless actions quietly support them. Back then, they thought you were simply sharing an opinion. Now they wondered whether those words carried an entire story behind them. Don't skip, because this was the exact moment their search into your past stopped feeling like curiosity and started revealing something much deeper about what they wanted with you. They remembered the psychic saying that one important person had helped shape the standards you carry today, and suddenly your old words seemed like a missing piece clicking into place. But there was another twist. The person you love realized that every quality you seem to value, consistency, patience, honesty, emotional presence, was exactly what they secretly wanted to give you, yet had sometimes been too hesitant to show. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. They had spent all this time wondering whether they could ever measure up to someone from your past, when perhaps the real question was whether they were willing to become clear about who they were in your present. That thought changed their entire mood. They no longer wanted another prediction. They wanted courage. They wanted the chance to show you that their feelings were not temporary curiosity. And then another memory surfaced. One particular moment when you had looked at them differently after they did something small but thoughtful. At the time, they dismissed it. Now they wondered whether that moment had quietly revealed exactly what your heart notices most. And suddenly, the person you love started connecting details they had never connected before. They remembered how you responded differently when someone remembered something important about you. They remembered how your expression softened around genuine kindness. They remembered how quickly you could sense when words were being spoken merely to impress you. Don't skip, because they finally understood something enormous. Perhaps your heart was never impossible to understand. Perhaps they had simply been looking for complicated answers when the truth was hidden inside simple things. You wanted what almost everyone secretly wants, to feel respected, valued, understood, and chosen through genuine actions. That realization made the psychic's original reaction seem completely different. Maybe she had not frozen because she discovered some unbelievable secret identity. Maybe she froze because the story she interpreted around your past seemed to explain exactly why the person sitting across from her had become so emotionally invested in you. Something huge is waiting for you, because then the person you love remembered another sentence from the reading. Sometimes the person searching for answers becomes part of the answer. They could not shake those words. What if their role was not to investigate everything that happened before? What if their role was simply to decide what they were willing to create now? For the first time, they imagined approaching you without games, without hidden tests, without expecting you to somehow understand feelings they never expressed. They imagined simply being consistent. Showing up. Listening. Allowing the connection to develop naturally instead of trying to force certainty before anything had even been said. And that thought brought an unexpected calmness. Because suddenly they did not need to know every chapter of your history. They only needed to respect that those chapters belonged to you. Then came the decision that could change the direction of everything. The person you love picked up their phone again. This time, they did not immediately put it down. Your name was right there, and for several seconds they stared at it while remembering every unanswered question that had pushed them toward that psychic in the first place. But now there was only one question that mattered: what would happen if they finally stopped hiding behind uncertainty? Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. They began thinking about what they truly wanted to say, not some dramatic confession, not something designed to pressure you, but something sincere enough to open a real conversation. Yet just before making their move, one final realization stopped them. The mysterious person from your past had taught you something about recognizing genuine connection, but perhaps there was another side to that lesson. Maybe you had also learned not to rush something meaningful simply because emotions were strong. And if they truly cared about you, they needed to respect that too. So instead of rushing, they made a quieter decision. Their next actions would speak before their biggest words ever did. They would become more consistent, more present, more honest. They would stop making you wonder whether you mattered. And deep inside, this decision felt bigger than everything the psychic had told them. Because they finally understood that discovering who influenced your past could never guarantee them a place in your future. Only what they chose to do from this moment forward could influence that. But the story was not finished. There was still one detail about the psychic's first reaction that had never been explained, and when the person you love finally asked about it directly, the answer revealed why she had looked at them with such disbelief from the very beginning.